Does it irritate you when people refer to you only as a rapper?
Yes.
Why?
I'm much more than that. I just like making stuff, and rhyming words together in a rhythm is just one of those things.
I didn't really have much growing up. Like, up until fucking I was 20, I was living on my grandmother's floor and shit.
I'm gonna get serious. My whole life I felt like a stepchild, in school, at home.
In 2019, the world was a very different place than it is today. And I don't mean to say this just because it seems like nowadays everyone is living paycheck to paycheck because of inflation and greedy landlords, or because we have a former president, maybe possibly, probably going to jail, or the fact that we have now all simultaneously witnessed what happens when multiple billionaires voluntarily enter a jerry-rigged titanium death trap, venturing 2.5 miles into the Atlantic Ocean to disturb the peace of some 1,500 individuals who died over 100 years ago. Anyways, because of what happened to the world in early 2020, 2019 acts as a bit of a time capsule for what was going on in pop culture before the pandemic changed everything. 2019 in many ways is most reminiscent of what quote-unquote normal life was like prior to the major cultural shift that was right around the corner. In 2019, Lady Gaga and Bradley Cooper's #1 hit Shallow became a cultural phenomenon. In 2019, the world unfortunately learned the answer to the question, what if we made Cats the musical into a movie, with James Corden. And while there were many wars and conflicts in 2019, none took the internet by storm than that of Tati Westbrook and James Charles and one unfortunate waiter at a birthday dinner. One of the best ways to measure the pulse of American culture, or the vibes and mood of America, is to look a bit deeper into the music that was popular at the time. 2019 gave us some phenomenal albums across a plethora of genres. Taylor Swift's Lover, Ariana Grande's Thank You Next, Lana Del Rey's Norman fucking Rockwell for the pop genre, fantastic R&B albums like Lizzo's 'Cause I Love You and Summer Walker's Over It, and Young Thug's album So Much Fun is one of the best regarded hip-hop and rap albums in recent years. But in 2019, there is one album that stands out among the rest. On May 17th, 2019, Tyler the Creator released his 5th studio album, Igor, to the best critical and commercial success of his entire career. Igor is not just an album, it's a piece of art. The beautiful, haunting, painful love story told throughout Igor is an all too familiar reality in a generation where it feels like falling in love, or even having a happy ending at all, feels seemingly impossible anymore. While many artists in 2019, and still to this day, are recording music for the sake of views, streams, sales, or to just simply capitalize on trends, Tyler the Creator is one of those artists who doesn't care about the status quo, and never has. His entire career has been littered with controversy, what many consider to be edgy and offensive lyrics, and an unapologetic, in-your-face demeanor that remains unwavered to this day.
Okay, now what about your lyrics?
What about them?
What are you saying in your lyrics?
Nothing. Shit to piss old white people off like you. I'm sorry if I keep talking. My lyrics aren't offensive.
Aren't they?
No.
Some people find them offensive, don't they? You've
Yeah,
heard that
some
before.
people find everything offensive. Okay.
And while many of the viral clips online of Tyler the Creator showcase him doing outlandish things, or constantly making everyone in the room laugh with his hilarious wit and comedic timing, Igor is none of that. It's raw to the point of being cruel, at times emotionally agonizing. Igor is a completely different side of Tyler the Creator that had been bubbling under the surface, but had yet to fully mature. Igor is an inside look into not only Tyler's musical genius and distinct storytelling abilities, but a rare glimpse at the deep and traumatizing pain and feelings of isolation he has experienced throughout his life, and how it's impacted his ability to love other people. And how fitting that an album focused on loneliness and isolation would be released just before the world would experience those two things in mass. It's been over 5 years since Tyler the Creator changed the world with his album Igor, and now feels like the perfect time to reflect on the cultural impact and why the album feels both nostalgic and timeless. Many albums are released every year, and many have been released since Igor, and yet very few of those albums have made as significant of an impact as Igor has. Exploring Tyler the Creator's upbringing, the story and lyrics told through Igor, and the modern realities about dating and relationships may help explain why Igor continues to resonate with listeners to this day, and more specifically, what Igor and Tyler can teach us about falling in love in the 21st century, returning to something familiar even if it simultaneously hurts you, and existing in the world as an outsider always looking in. Born in Hawthorne, California on March 6, 1991 as Tyler Gregory Acoma, Tyler the Creator, as he's formerly known, has always been the oddball out, the ugly duckling. As he puts it, he's always felt like the stepchild in life, both in school and at home. The son of a Nigerian father and a mixed-race African-American and Canadian mother, Tyler the Creator grew up without knowing his father, claiming to maybe have met him once when he was 12, according to his mother, but he has no recollection. Hawthorne, California is a part of the greater Los Angeles metropolitan area and is a predominantly Hispanic and Latino part of LA, nearly 54% of all residents according to the 2020 census. This is significant as Tyler grew up always feeling like he didn't fit in, never dressing the same as his peers, never listening to the same music, always wanting to skateboard and listen to jazz in his free time. This led to Tyler being bullied non-stop by classmates. As he puts it, he was too white for the black kids and too black for the white kids. Tyler frequently bounced around schools growing up, attending 12 different schools in 12 years throughout LA and Sacramento, making finding friends even more difficult. At age 7, he would start drawing his own album covers and putting them into CD cases, despite not knowing anything about making music. Tyler tried his hand at several extracurriculars, but never found his footing with any of the groups that he tried out for. In middle school, he auditioned for the drama club, but was removed the same day for being too hyperactive and energetic. In high school, he wanted to join the band, but he did not know how to read sheet music. In his free time, Tyler also enjoyed playing Tony Hawk skateboard video games. At age 14, he taught himself how to play the piano, realizing that music was the one thing that gave him true purpose, a calling, something to take him out of his isolation. In the early 2000s, when Tyler was growing up, there was no social media to turn to when you wanted someone to relate to. Tyler didn't have people at home to relate to. The people at school were only interested in ostracizing him. With no one to turn to, what is a young kid supposed to do in the early 2000s? Television, of course. Tyler grew up watching Dave Chappelle on Chappelle Show, relating to Dave's visual look and the lighthearted, often goofy demeanor. In his words, Dave Chappelle helped him accept being a skinny, lanky black man with an outrageous sense of humor. Dave Chappelle helped Tyler accept being weird. Being different was cool, not fitting in was cool, and it was okay to be yourself, despite what Tyler was being told on a daily basis. Pharrell Williams and Eminem served as two other major forces for Tyler growing up as well. To Tyler, both Pharrell and Eminem were oddities in music. Eminem was a white rapper with blonde hair and blue eyes in a predominantly black genre, and Pharrell was a black record producer and fellow skateboarder in a rock band with his band Nerd. Tyler fell in love with music from a very young age. He knew early on that it was his passion, and he was destined to make music. Tyler worked odd jobs throughout high school, for a few weeks at FedEx, and for a few years at Starbucks. In 2007, at just age 16, Tyler founded the LA-based hip-hop collective Odd Future Wolfgang Kill Them All with a few of his friends. Needing a creative outlet from the isolated environment he found himself in, Tyler poured his need for music and drive to make art into his MySpace page, uploading everything he made with his group online to get their name out there. While Tyler was working and writing and recording music with his hip-hop collective Odd Future, he was also recording and writing his own solo music as well. On November 15th, 2008, Odd Future released their first mixtape titled The Odd Future Tape. Their music had a small but growing fan base online who appreciated the raunchy, provocative lyrics and the in-your-face rebelliousness of their vibe as a group. The collective was constantly welcoming new and up-and-coming rappers in around the LA area. In late 2009, Odd Future welcomed fellow notable rapper Earl Sweatshirt to the group, and then notably adding singer Frank Ocean to the mix in late 2010. After mild success with Odd Future's first mixtape, on December 25th, Christmas Day of 2009, Tyler the Creator released his first extended play titled Bastard. Just like Odd Future's first mixtape, Bastard was available online for free. In fact, most of Bastard was recorded and produced by Tyler himself using FL Studio, a digital audio software to record music like GarageBand on steroids. The extended play was published on DatPiff, a digital music platform focused on mixtapes from independent artists. Bastard was well received by critics and fans, who appreciated the early signs of Tyler's storytelling and how he had created his own unique sound outside of his hip-hop collective Odd Future. Bastard would end up being ranked among a few of the best albums of 2010 list, and in 2022, Bastard was ranked number 118 out of the 200 greatest hip-hop albums of all time according to Rolling Stone. In the context of Tyler's career, Bastard is a crucial piece of his discography as it set the stage for what he would experience for the next few years in the music industry and in the public eye, now that his name, his band, and his brand were growing. With his first EP under his belt, Tyler was already starting work on his debut album. In order to build up hype for his debut album, on February 11th, 2011, Tyler the Creator released the music video for his second promotional single titled Yonkers. Directed by Tyler, Yonkers caused controversy online and in the media due to the song containing disses at other artists like Bruno Mars and B.O.B., as well as featuring Tyler holding and eventually eating a cockroach, throwing up, and then unaliving himself. The music video went viral, and Tyler quickly became one of the hottest new artists on the music scene, notably winning the VMA for Best New Artist and having Kanye West refer to the music video for Yonkers as the best video of 2011. On May 10th, 2011, Tyler released his debut studio album titled Goblin. Goblin was once again produced, written, and recorded almost exclusively by Tyler himself. When Goblin was released, Tyler was sleeping on the floor of his grandmother's house in Ladera Heights, California, as he did not have steady income bouncing around between jobs. Goblin debuted at number 5 on the Billboard 200 albums chart, of course in large part due to the viral success of Yonkers. The album was generally well received amongst critics as well, garnering a 70 to 80 out of 100 when you get an aggregate of the critics' ratings. Goblin is a horrorcore alt-hip-hop album with a notably sinister and evil vibe to it, with visceral imagery and a brash bravado that helped cement both Tyler the Creator and Odd Future as bona fide newcomers with extremely solid potential to make it big commercially. Right around the release of their debut album, Odd Future debuted their live-action sketch comedy show on the Adult Swim network called Loiter Squad. The show featured Odd Future members and ran for 3 seasons from 2012 to 2014. On March 20th, 2012, Odd Future Wolfgang Kill Them All released their first and only studio album titled The OF Tape Volume 2. Serving as a sequel to their mixtape The OF Tape, The OF Tape Volume 2 was intentionally both sincere and satirical in its lyrics, going from both being outrageously absurd rap to weighty and more serious topics. Just like Goblin, the OF Tape Volume 2 peaked at number 5 on the Billboard 200 albums chart, ultimately receiving similar critics' reviews and a similar 71 out of 100 Metacritic aggregate score. Critics in particular, of course, singled out Tyler, in addition to singling out the tracks featuring Frank Ocean, and praising the overall value of the vintage hip-hop and R&B influences throughout the album. Following up his prior edgy and hardcore projects, Tyler was growing personally behind the scenes. He was no longer a broke teenager making raps with his friends on a laptop. He was involved with major record labels, good friends with prominent rappers and artists, and now had the most money he's ever had in his life. He didn't have to rap about the same controversial topics with unrestrained lyrics now that he had a dedicated fan base and the intrigue of the music industry to see what he would do next. On April 2nd, 2013, Tyler released his second album titled Wolf. The album debuted and peaked at number 3 on the Billboard 200 albums chart, garnering similar reviews to his EP Bastard and his first album Goblin. The main takeaway from Wolf is that there was a persistent progression and evolving of Tyler as an artist. Was he still slightly unhinged lyrically? Yes. Was he still slightly immature sound-wise? Yes. But was Wolf further proof that Tyler the Creator was advancing into a more fully realized artist with a distinct flow and persona? Hell yes. While recording his third studio album, Tyler the Creator was surging in online popularity, far exceeding the popularity of the group Odd Future. In fact, a large portion of Odd Future's popularity was due to the virality and natural personality of Tyler as the face of the group. By 2012, fellow Odd Future member Frank Ocean had released his debut album Channel Orange and was becoming a major success in his own right. The same could be said for Earl Sweatshirt and his independent success as well. Signs were on the horizon that Odd Future as a group was falling apart behind the scenes, and the mainstream success of some of its members was outpacing the fandom of the group as a whole. They essentially grew up together and then grew apart as they developed their own sound. In May of 2015, it was all but confirmed by Tyler in a tweet that Odd Future was disbanded as a group, insisting that they were no longer a group, but they're always forever. A month before that tweet, on April 13th, 2015, Tyler released his third studio album titled Cherry Bomb. Another release under his own record label, Odd Future Records, Cherry Bomb reached number 4 on the Billboard 200 albums chart, but still falling into the 70 70 out of 100 Metacritic aggregate score range similar to his previous albums. A majority of the tracks are of course written and produced by Tyler himself, but critics noted how Cherry Bomb was lyrically inconsistent and overall lacked a cohesive tone, despite how progressive Tyler had become to this point and how formidable his writing and storytelling capabilities were transforming into. Now that Tyler was a solo artist, he had a rapidly growing brand with 2 different successful clothing lines, Golf Wang and Golf Le Fleur, a nearly religious fan base that went rabid over everything he released, and the public being more receptive to his softening image. The days of Bastard and Wolf and having a hardcore, violently blunt personality no longer meshed with that image. Tyler is similar to his peer Frank Ocean in that they're both notoriously private and don't flagrantly discuss their personal lives. Their music is the audience's gateway into their livelihood and their experiences. Within Tyler's music, you could see the budding flowers of a more layered personality that were beginning to blossom. The guarded barbed wire walls of the weird kid in school, the oddball out, the stepchild were beginning to come down. A more empathetic, outspoken, esoteric side of Tyler was rising. Tyler no longer had to live in fear of judgment. He was respected and beloved. He could finally be more free. On July 21st, 2017, Tyler the Creator released his 4th studio album titled Flowerboy. The album became Tyler's highest charting album, peaking at number 2 on the Billboard 200 albums chart. Critically, Flowerboy received the best reviews of Tyler's career as well, averaging an 84 out of 100 aggregate. Critics admonished Tyler's vulnerability, sensitivity, clear lyrical and emotional maturity, and his balance with being absurd, being abrasive, and being heartfelt. Flowerboy to date has been featured on more than a dozen best albums of 2017 and best albums of the 2010s lists, respectively. In between writing and recording new music for his 5th studio album, Tyler released several singles, freestyles, and remixes, none of which would be included in the upcoming 5th album. But that would all change on May 6, 2019, when Tyler began changing his social media to him in a platinum blonde wig, a suit, and sunglasses, hinting at what could be not only new music, but a new era of Tyler. And on May 17, 2019, the world would be introduced to an entirely new side of Tyler the Creator and his psyche with his masterpiece 5th studio album, aptly titled Igor. Igor is a play on the literary character of Igor, typically associated with being Frankenstein's assistant, often being depicted in films and books as a hunchback, facially deformed, grunting and snarling next to some mad scientist. And Igor typically implies ugliness, loneliness, and subservience to a fault. This is why Tyler's face is darkened and distorted on the album's cover to reflect these traits. Although in Tyler's case, his Igor is a more apathetic, grim side of himself. Igor tells the story of a debilitating love triangle involving the titular character of Igor, which is Tyler, his male love interest, and the ex-female lover of the male love interest. Throughout Igor, we experience the roller coaster of falling in love, pouring your entire being into your lover, watching that love be squandered for someone else, and then coming back to the same realization that what you want with that lover will never work, yet you can't stop going back. Igor is immeasurable in its capacity to both captivate and isolate the listener. A cruel cycle of repeated heartbreak, unrequited lust, and an eternal longing for a lover that's incapable of loving you back. The first half of the album starts off with an erratic whirlwind romance that leaves Tyler feeling anxious but hopeful, although ultimately hopelessly devoted and in despair. By the album's final track, it's all but confirmed that Tyler is head over heels in love with someone who would rather use them as a puppet for emotional manipulation and a pawn for self-gratification. The album's last track, titled Are We Still Friends?, ponders the question of how you keep someone around you that you love and care for so deeply to the point of self-sabotage. Is someone worth keeping in your life if they actively harm your mental, physical, and emotional capacity to care for yourself? Can you even be friends with people you have ever been in love with? Will history always repeat itself? Is love meant to be one torturous cycle of selfless abandonment for the sake of someone else? The truth is, you can't satisfy an insatiable narcissist. Igor is the story of Tyler giving more of himself to a person than that person has ever thought about giving to him. Within each of the tracks on Igor, we see the mental toll and damaged psyche that the love triangle has developed into. Analyzing each individual track helps illustrate not only the storyline, but how turbulent and manic the love story becomes, even as the protagonist becomes aware of the trap they find themselves in. Is recognizing you're involved in a dead romance enough to quit pursuing it? How do you stop yourself from loving someone when part of your existence is built around satisfying and sacrificing for that person? The first track, Igor's theme, introduces not only the titular character Igor, but the menacing and gloomy tones that would appear throughout the rest of the album. Earthquake is the emotional core of the album, Tyler at his most vulnerable, in the full swings of a painful love triangle where he is head over heels to the point of fear that his lover will leave him, watching the world crumble like an earthquake. I think lets us into Tyler's psyche to see that he is in love to the point of delusion. This circle of love has happened before. Tyler has been hurt by this lover before. They think this time is different. This time their love is for real. No cap.
Exactly what you run from, you end up chasing.
Is one of several spoken word snippets of comedian Gerard Carmichael used to amplify the themes of the first half of Igor. Tyler keeps chasing what he fears losing the most. Running out of time informs us that the relationship is all but over. Chasing time, but time will always win. Tyler knows he's in love with someone closeted, someone playing pretend, in his words, wearing a Halloween costume. Tyler is in love with someone he can't love out loud. New magic wand is Tyler accepting that he won't win in the race against time for his lover. Maybe he can use a magic wand, a gun, to get rid of the third lover. If his lover doesn't choose him, he'll kill both. A Boy is a Gun shows the destruction of Tyler continuing to fall for his lover, despite him wounding him like a gun. He may ultimately kill him, like a gun. Tyler's love is damaging himself and his lover as both the poison and the antidote. Puppet proves that Tyler is still under the control of his lover, being pulled and manipulated like a puppet, but wishing the strings could be cut at someone's total will. What's Good showcases the growth Tyler has into a more fully realized Igor. He's self-aware, coming to his senses, attempting to get rid of the emotional trauma he experiences earlier in the album in Earthquake. Gone, Gone, Thank You is the acceptance of Tyler's journey through heartbreak, acknowledging the love he had and lost, admiring the experiences, but realizing that they were all fleeting moments, and in the race against time, time has won once again. I Don't Love You Anymore is almost ironic in that Tyler is still in love, but tries to convince himself that he isn't. How could he still love someone who would put his feelings in the lost and found? Once in love, always in love. Or is he? Are We Still Friends confirms that this undying infatuation Tyler experiences with his lover is just that. The earthquake is never ending. Tyler starts out in Igor willing to do anything to have his lover, even if he has to kill him and their love interest, and even if he has to kill himself in the process. But by the final track, Tyler is willing to accept even being friends, just to keep their lover around. The truth is, we are all Igor. We have all chased after people who don't want us. Always pouring into other people, even when they don't pour back, hoping that they do, even if we subconsciously know that they never will, and possibly never were going to. Igor isn't some monster with unattractive features, mistreated by everyone, living only to please others. Igor isn't a character, Igor is us. Igor has always been an integral part of us as humans. Igor is our jealousy, our rage, our vulnerability, our apathy, our internal emotional volcano. And like a volcano, it may be dormant, but it is still there. Igor is the human response to prolonged suffering. Igor is human. Even in the literary context, Igor has feelings. Just because people ignore your feelings doesn't mean they don't continue to hurt, and it doesn't mean they don't matter. To me, the line that has always stuck out the most on Igor is on track 5, titled Running Out of Time, when Tyler says,
I found peace in drowning.
And how fitting to find solace in something so awful and traumatic and suffocating. But isn't that Igor? Isn't that love? Racing to break the surface and get your head above the water? But time will always win. In the end, you have to find peace in drowning when everyone is ultimately going down. Igor blends hip-hop, pop, R&B, trap, soul, and funk into a melancholy wave of synthesizers and wavering high and low-pitch vocal melodies with subtle hints of jazz fusion as well, all at the craft of Tyler. The multiple genres adds to the numerous layers of complexity within the album's composition and narrative. Igor became Tyler's highest charting album, debuting at number 1 on the Billboard 200 albums chart, becoming Tyler's first number 1 album. And the song Earthquake became Tyler's highest charting song still to date, ultimately peaking at number 13 on the Billboard Hot 100. Igor placed on many best albums of 2019 lists, cracking the top 10 for most lists, even taking first place on Complex's best albums of 2019, and number 54 for the 100 best albums of the 2010s lists from Billboard. Igor actually ended up winning Tyler his first Grammy for Best Rap Album at the 2020 Grammys, although Tyler has been outspoken and critical of the Grammys for not placing Igor in the pop categories.
It sucks that whenever we, and I mean guys that look like me, do anything that's genre bending or that's anything, they always put it in a rap or urban category, which is, and I don't like that urban word. It's just a politically correct way to say the N-word to me.
If we're being honest, Igor is so many genres, it's incredibly hard to narrow down which one it's more of than the other. I think, given how widespread of a sound the pop genre is, and how often limited the rap genre is in sound, Igor should have been placed in the pop categories instead. Are there rap elements, and is Tyler often rapping? Yes. But Lizzo, Iggy Azalea, and Doja Cat have all rapped in songs and on their albums and still are consistently placed in pop categories. I am not a fan of the Grammys at all, and this is only one example of thousands as to why, but I am at least happy that Igor was recognized in some form. Is it as many nominations or wins as it should have received? Not even close. Igor should have at least been nominated for Album of the Year in my opinion. But just like Tyler by the end of Igor, I will take what I can get. After the massive success of Igor, Tyler's image and persona was branded to a new level, the most mainstream level of his career thus far. Igor may have been a personal nightmare to experience for Tyler, but in real life, Igor became a dream. In real life, Igor was no assistant, he was the protagonist. Tyler released his sixth and, as of this recording, most recent studio album titled Call Me If You Get Lost on June 25th, 2021. Call Me If You Get Lost opts for a more traditional hip-hop sound than Tyler's two previous album efforts, Igor and Flowerboy, but is still infused with soul and jazz. Call Me If You Get Lost produced the highest Metacritic score for any of Tyler's albums, averaging an 85 to 90 when you get an aggregate of the scores out of 100. The Call Me If You Get Lost tour began in February of 2022 and is still going to this day, ending in October of 2024. Call Me If You Get Lost became Tyler's second album in a row to debut at #1 on the Billboard 200 albums chart, with 13 of the songs off of the album charting on the Billboard Hot 100 chart, with the song What's Your Name reaching number 14 on the Billboard Hot 100. Call Me If You Get Lost won Tyler his second Grammy in 2 years for Best Rap Album in 2022. Call Me If You Get Lost is typically referenced alongside Igor as Tyler's best work, although there are plenty of Tyler fans who will argue just as hard in favor of his EP and his first 4 albums as being his best. Since releasing Call Me If You Get Lost in 2021, Tyler is still touring the world, appearing in fashion shows to score runways, and on March 31st, 2023, Tyler released a follow-up Call Me If You Get Lost estate sale album featuring tracks not included on the original album and accompanying music videos. In April of 2024, Tyler the Creator appeared alongside many former collaborators such as A$AP Rocky, Childish Gambino, and Kali Uchis for the 2024 Coachella Music Festival. Tyler the Creator is one of those artists who thrives off of keeping his audience and the music industry guessing what he's going to do next. Tyler has gone his entire life refusing to let people put him into a box. From the kids in school, to the rappers in the music industry, to the general public and their perceptions of who he should be and what he should wear, Tyler has never let his creative genius be stifled by outside opinion. It's difficult to capture someone's life in lyrics, or to try and experience what someone else has gone through. And that's even more complex when it's in reference to someone like Tyler, who rarely opens up and who has been through so much as a person that opening up to people is not an easy endeavor. In his earlier works like Bastard, Goblin, Wolf, and Cherry Bomb, we see a scared but hardened Tyler who will lash out in a heartbeat, is more interested in shock value, and exploiting the taboos and fringes of society to get a rise or a laugh out of his subject matter. In Flowerboy, we see the chains of toxic, shallow, and fragile masculinity being acknowledged and untangled, with early signs of vulnerability emerging. In Igor, Tyler's utterly unapologetic sensitivity and insanity is on full display in both a homoerotic way, but in a beautifully human way. Call Me If You Get Lost is the awakening and rebirth of Tyler, with touches and tastes of his older music, but with new perspectives, and a more nuanced set of life experiences that he just did not have when he wrote albums like Goblin or Cherry Bomb. The true fans of Tyler the Creator aren't people who just listen to his earlier horrorcore rap from his Vine days. It's not the fans who just listen to his music post Flowerboy that still plays throughout TikTok. The fans of Tyler the Creator that understand him best are those who have stuck around for all of it, accepting of his changing sound, lyrics, and sexuality. If we're being honest, I was in the middle of researching for a completely different video when I happened to take a shower. I put my phone on shuffle, and mid-shower, Earthquake came on. I did a deep sigh as I had forgotten how much this album impacted me when it came out. I can remember being fresh out of college when Igor was released in 2019. I was walking with my friend Allison along Union Square in New York City. We each shared an AirPod. We listened to the entire album walking throughout Manhattan and down the West Village. We couldn't stop talking about how amazing each song was, how beautiful and haunting and different Tyler's voice was on each track, how the narrative wove into each song, ultimately concluding in a love triangle loop. But for a large portion of our walk through Manhattan, Allison and I didn't talk. This was more apparent on songs like Running Out of Time and A Boy Is a Gun, when it was near total silence for several minutes as we walked dozens of streets together. And that's the human condition. Sometimes, on rare occasions, music has the ability to move us to tears on the drop of a dime. Some songs can bring out such strong emotions that they overwhelm our entire being, rendering us speechless. Like a form of music sleep paralysis. You're conscious and aware, but you're simultaneously helpless and afraid. Igor is one of those albums that is almost too uncomfortable to talk about because it asks you to confront your worst qualities as a human. The most gruesome, jealous, dark parts of your personality that you pretend aren't there. But when certain moments present themselves, those bad romance qualities become known. You could legitimately write several books on Tyler's discography and musical journey easily. What Tyler the Creator did on Igor, to me, is worthy of a doctoral dissertation and worthy of more praise than it is currently given. Igor is one of the greatest concept albums that has been released in the 21st century, maybe of all time. In my Katy Perry video, I noted that Katy could hypothetically retire tomorrow, and her legacy would be solidified regardless. The same can be said about Tyler. Tyler's musical genius is permanently documented in the pop culture zeitgeist as one of the greatest artists of all time. Not rapper, not pop star, not jazz enthusiast, an artist. Art is indescribable and has the ability to stir conversation for years, maybe even hundreds of years. I hope that history will see it through and that Igor and Tyler will receive the respect they deserve. And how amazing, man, to see Tyler's journey going from being a teenager sleeping on his grandmother's floor in Ladera Heights to becoming a multi-platinum Grammy-winning artist all by the age of 30. Every time I see Tyler online, I'm just so proud of him and I really hope he lives his absolute best life. When I see him online, it reminds me of that TikTok audio that says, "Go little rock star," because that's me on the sidelines cheering him on. While Igor was the emotional earthquake that pained Tyler to reveal, the hauntingly devastating beauty expressed in his lyrics will forever live in the minds of those who have listened. Tyler, while you may have run out of time to make the love of your life fall in love with you again, you have made millions of fans around the world fall in love with their Igor.